All right. So honestly, thank you so much to all four of you.
You want to switch?
For, good for participating on this panel. I cannot do justice introducing each of you. So first, can we start with a quick round of introductions, please?
Working?
Now it is.
So allow me to say hello to our digital community first. And I'm so glad to meet you in person and not on the Zoom calls and team calls. So good afternoon and welcome here. So my name is Shelly, and I work as a director of data in Damac Properties. We are leading a real estate company, but we are also in crypto and NFTs now. About my background, I am a computer engineer. I have been here since last 8 months, 8 years.
It's coming. I don't know if I want to go beyond that, but that's we'll leave it to imagination.
All right. So I've studied discrete mathematics, foundational AI, and I've got a chance to roll out digital transformation strategies, keeping the data at the forefront. By the way, I'm the data advocate, so you're going to hear a lot about percentages and data even in this talk, so be ready for that. And so glad to be here, really. Thank you so much for the chance.
Thank you, Shelly. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Kunal, for having me here. It's such a pleasure being a part of this beautiful event. My name is Namrata Bhatia, and I've been in the UAE since the last 30 years. I started my career as a startup kid with an e-commerce company called Copone, not a startup anymore. Moved on to several other startup ventures, and now I work with Holiday Factory. Holiday Factory, as many of you must have heard, is the leader in tour operator in the region, and we belong to a German group called the Brainox. I've been heading their marketing for the last 7 years, and I also joined them when they were in their startup phase. So very excited to share insights about what we do with acquisition and retention. Looking forward to it.
Hey guys, my name is Ankit, and I am currently heading the digital at Sixth Street, which is part of a parallel group. Sixth Street, for those who don't know, it's a leading online fashion marketplace in the Middle East, and we're present in 6 countries. And I've been in the region for about 7 years now. I've worked across agencies, client sides, so I've been on both sides of the table, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion today.
Hi everyone, I'm Nadine. Thanks Kunal for today, and thanks MoEngage for actually enabling an in-person, finally, a platform to learn and share today. So thank you so much. Let me introduce myself. So I'm coming from Middle East, and Middle East is Saudi's biggest music and entertainment brand, and probably you know us from, or you don't know, that we actually organize the largest music event in the region, and it's called Soundstorm. But more than that, we are a creative platform that enables arts, culture, and lifestyle for the Saudi youth. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to discuss today.
Awesome. And what gives me a lot of pleasure, of course, the topic is really interesting. I think we discuss it in our day-to-day, and we may not call it acquisition, retention, we call it other terms. I think all of you are from such distinct industries. And I think the challenge still remains, but the way you solve it is probably very different. So how I'd like to do this, if it's okay, I'll ask one question. We'll go across all 4 of you. And then I'd like to ask each of you a specific question about your own business. And then we can cap off with a common question at the end. I hope that's okay. The first one, I'll keep it super simple. It's difficult to balance. You can't necessarily say, this week acquisition is more important, next week retention is more important. How do you actually decide? Is there a way to decide? Who wants to go?
I can go first.
Yeah, let's go.
I think no business should decide between retention and acquisition because both of them are important depending upon what stage of business you are in, right? So how we tackle this at Sixth Street is we tackle this by one single metric, which is called OPAS, or what we call internally as OPAS, which is OPAS. It's called orders per active customers. And we look at orders per active customers in a 12-month window. And this single metric has helped take us business decisions across different teams, have unification in terms of what we want to achieve as a business across different teams. So one simple example which I would like to give to kind of explain what OPAS leads into is, let's assume that we had 1,000 shoppers who shopped with sixstreet.com last year in 2021. And this year, we want 40% of them to come back and shop with us. But how many times a year is what OPAS is, right? So we know, for example, those 40% customers will come back and shop. As a target we have taken, let's say, is 5. We want them to shop 5 times this year with us. So 40% of 1,000 is 400 into 5 into the average order value. We clearly know what is the revenue that we will get out of our returning customers from last year, right? So the difference in revenue is where we need to acquire customers. So I just strongly feel that your retention should fund or partially fund your acquisition. So with this approach, I clearly know, right, my performance marketing teams that I manage, they clearly know what is the absolute amount of new customers they want to acquire this year through Facebook, through affiliates, and so on, right? And my CRM teams know what is the purchase frequency they want to drive towards. So for us, or for any business, I don't think they need to choose one. It's a matter of which stage they are in their growth, and how they can leverage one to become more efficient at acquiring their acquisition across customers.
Yeah, that's really good.
Absolutely, I can go next. So this is not even a choice, like whether acquisition or retention. We need to have the strategies which fuel each other. And for example, acquisition, we all know, like if we have a new product launch or if we have a new market to expand to, definitely acquisition strategy takes the first place. But I have seen like teams make mistake when this is an ongoing business. So we have the monthly budgets, we have the monthly targets, KPIs. To meet that, the focus shifts towards acquisition more and retention takes the backseat. So we can understand this better with some data points. Like if we put retention on the backseat, here is what we need to think. So the success rate to sell to the retained customer will be 60 to 70%. However, to the new customer, it cannot be more than 2 to 10% if this is a new acquisition. Similarly, if the cost, which we always take into consideration in any business, of course, so the cost can be 5 times more to acquiring a new customer. However, putting some next best offers or discounts or the loyalty programs or to reward to the high value customers for the retained existing customers. And thirdly, if we increase the retention of those high value customers, it by 5%, as per the industry standard, it can reach up to the 95% of the increase in revenue. So we cannot overlook the retention strategies. And this is, as I said, like this is not a neither nor or either or. This needs to be cascaded approach. So one is fueling another. Then we have very good indicators through the data models which we can monitor or analyze, which is about, so data is the backbone for those models. So if we have propensity models, if we have the early churn indications, if we have, so the data will tell you to identify that these are those segments, these are those people who are about to be churned, or these are going to be the dormant customer very soon. So we need to take action right now so that we can retain them. Or who are those prospects which are not even customer yet in acquisition strategy. So we can take advantage of those segments that the propensity is going to be high or the likelihood to purchase or the conversion will be better for these segment of customers. So this all can be achievable by the right data models in place, by the right approach in place. So I think that's what my opinion is.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Shelly.
Well, for our industry, the travel industry, it's quite an easy pick. Unlike with others, for us, acquisition most of the times takes priority over retention. That's because the nature of our product and the consumption of our services are periodic. And hence, more often than not, it always takes priority over retention. But that being said, we also have retention as playing a big role in our overall marketing strategy. And we love to call this as a concept of soft retention, which I will be going into more depth in the later stage.
It's very good. I wish I was traveling more frequently.
You can.
I know, that's true.
It's not COVID anymore.
Where's MoEngage?
Still love your term revenge tourism.
All right.
It's coming. All right, Nadine. Please.
I think everybody talked about really valid points, so I don't want to repeat it. I just want to add one more thing. It also depends on the maturity of the brand. If you're a really well-established brand, like if everybody knows you, obviously things change for you. But if you are like a new startup, you know, you're growing your audience just now, yeah, you have to get your message out there. You need to prioritize acquisition. But I currently have this very exciting experience, like this opportunity to work for such a unique brand as Middle Beast. It's because, as Nadine, I worked for a financial center before. It was about optimization for me before, retention, acquisition. It was an optimization game. But for Middle Beast, we have a cultural mission. So Middle Beast has the mission to accomplish a paradigm shift for the Saudi youth. So for us, we need to get our message out there. That's why we need to, and we cannot bite a huge chunk. We cannot talk to the whole Saudi youth at the same time. So for us, it goes together. So we need to acquire the Saudi youth, get our message out there, and but for us, then we have the mandate, the duty to retain them because we're building a community. And I'll talk more about it later. We are a platform with so many different things, and we need to tell them so many different stories. And we need to nurture them, and we need to make sure they are cared, they are accounted for, and we actually give them what they really need to express their creativity. So we have to acquire them and then retain them to achieve this bigger vision as a part of Saudi's bigger vision. So
Yeah, it's a very good point, right? I mean, if you're a brand new brand or a net new brand, it's obviously more important to get the customers in, then create the experience, and then keep retaining them, of course. Makes sense. Demac's a very well-known brand, right? But obviously, it's more than just real estate now. It's prop tech. It's things you mentioned, NFTs and crypto. And when I think about just the real estate piece, Shelley, if I can put you on the spot with this question, acquisition and retention completely different. From e-commerce as an example, or lifestyle, or travel, or entertainment. What strategies do you tend to deploy? And very clearly, of course, it's you, so I'm going to ask you, I know data is a very big thing in your world. So what kinds of models do you look at? What kind of AI, ML initiatives do you have going on to try and influence this acquisition versus retention?
Sure. So this is called the RAD, R-A-D, Retention, Acquisition, and Development. And as I explained, like this cannot be either or. So if at one end the performance marketing is fueling the engine with the acquisition, then we have the direct marketing, which can remarket or retain the users, and then we have the data, which can always coming from the CDPs and coming from other systems, which can always indicate that whom to target, when to target, what to target. So, we try to keep a balance on all of those, and the huge focus is to increase the retention because of the big size of the ticket item is big in this real estate. So that is definitely a beneficial model for us. About acquisition, usually it is the exercise, but we follow like these three things in acquisition. So first, find out your addressable market. So in there, like I explained, so how big is your user base? Out of total market share, which one you want to target so that you can reach out to the right people. If you're expanding into the international market, what is the size and volume and the preferences and choices? There is tons of data points which can come into consideration to identify that addressable market. Second approach for acquisition itself is that we build our manifesto, a single communication, single message across all channels, no scattering. This has to be there, even for other industries, because that gives a single message and user connect to that better. And yeah, so that most important part that we don't go blind, which means that we always have research data to go into totally new market, totally new, with totally new product, and that is because we have the historical data, and based on historical data, we can create some lookalike models. So we never go blind. So it gives, so of course it is a test and learn, but the acquisition is better if you are more informed and you can make better decision based on that. Similarly, for retention, that is my point, like always start with CLTV, customer life cycle, customer lifetime value. I'm missing my words today.
It's all right. I'll try and fill in where I can.
And then on top of it, because that's the basis. So once we have that value in our hand and we can develop a lot of models on top of it, we can identify, like I explained, the early churn indication, the propensity, the likelihood. So on top of it, if the RFM model is developed, so these are like a little bit data terms. RFM is recency, frequency, monetary value, and then we do the segmentation based on that, so that you can identify that exactly whom to target and with what channel, with what type of content, with what type of product. So the RFM model is hugely helpful. We use it under CDP as well. And yeah, build the model on top of it. Test and learn is the way to go and do better.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
So effectively what you're saying is data drives primarily everything. Firstly, if it's acquisition or retention. You start with data and then...
Kind of.
There you go. If I was to summarize. In just following on, and I'll pull you in, Nadine, if that's okay. You mentioned community and you mentioned the opportunity to build, I guess, a very loyal set of customers. But then knowing MiddleBeast, it's an umbrella. There's multiple product categories. You obviously have the opportunity then to upsell, cross-sell over the course of the journey that a customer has with you. What kinds of strategies do you deploy? Is it a different level of segmentation? Is it personalization at different levels? Or what are you doing to try and obviously acquire, but also keep these people in your funnel for longer?
I think that's a very good question.
Thank you.
So when you work with a brand like us, it becomes very tricky because your offering is very philosophical. You go out and you say you are a creative platform, but actually you have a product and you need to sell, right? So when you go out, I'm not going to say vague, but with a mission and with a statement, and it's so creative and all that. So how are you going to make it very tangible? How are you going to speak to people? And actually, like, we also need to generate revenue, right? How do you do it? So we absolutely do it using segmentation, personalization, and through our MarTech stack. So we have, we discussed it, but today I actually made a promise that I'm going to humanize MarTech stack. I'm not going to talk about all the technical details, but we orchestrate our full MarTech stack, like our CDP, our marketing automation tool, our personalization tool, our website backend, everything together, actually just to understand how people are taking part of our community. So I'll give you an example. So we have Soundstorm, right? It is Middle East's biggest electronic music event. We actually welcomed 700,000 people in 2021. So that's a lot of data, And we are actually a publication at the same time. So we have a magazine, we have a television, online television channel, and then we have other online experiences. So people who consume MiddleBeast products and content, they go across all these platforms, online and offline. So what we do is we see the overlaps, we see the crossings between these experiences, and we actually use lookalikes and propensity to also grab the ones that did not, let's say, consume Beast FM yet, but we know that they have a high propensity to consume because their data shows a huge overlap with this particular audience profile that actually came to Soundstorm, actually watched some frequencies from us, some frequencies and stuff like that. So we definitely use it for cross and upsell opportunities, but also what we do is we need to be inclusive. So we are talking to the Saudi youth from all socioeconomic levels. We have very expensive experiences, yes. Yes, but we also have affordable ones. So everybody is a part of it. So what we do is when we personalize, we have their LTV information, badges, everything they consume, to the actually point that if they ate chicken nuggets or fries in our festival, everything. And then we then target them or talk to them based on the experiences they show interest in the past and then they can afford. So those are the like things that we do that I can think top of mind.
That's really impressive. Thank you for sharing that. So if I was to again just try and summarize that, it almost feels like what you're doing is trying to go down to a segment of one, because it's not even broad strokes. I mean, if someone eats a certain type of food, very different from everybody else at the event, as an example. So that's really
If I might add one more
yeah,
thing.
please, all yours.
Because I was very excited about that project. We actually use location-based data at the same time, so using offline data to specific to target people. So we knew which kiosks or food stalls were in the VIP area in our festival. Let's say if we see that there's like no consumption, from that area, or let's say it is like a quite low entry point, like average basket value is quite low, we would actually next year move it to the general admission area based on the consumption data that we collect. Or let's say if there is like a big, or let's say general admission area, if there's like a huge, I don't know what to say, very popular, like a very popular kiosk that was, consumed a lot, we would actually move it to the VIP area because VIP people, they want to eat chicken nuggets as well or fries. So we would even use it to redesign physical spaces for our customers. So
That's awesome. So you're unpacking all the data that's available at Middle Beast, using it for good business decisions. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Ankit, I'll pull you in. E-commerce is probably the most understood industry vertical right now. I mean, we're all shoppers. We all do it. Sixth Street's amazing brand. But clearly, it's not as repetitive as sometimes you'd like. People tune out. They become dormant. Some might uninstall or potentially disappear completely. So two things, right? One, I know from our conversations that you try and avoid that from happening. So the first question is, how do you actually know before these things are going to happen, that they might happen? And secondly, what are you doing to try and stop these bad outcomes from potentially happening so that any e-commerce brand, these are your insights, so please do share, can constantly keep that lifetime value growing and the engagement levels from their customers growing?
Sure. So I think to answer your first question, which is about how do you identify people before they become churn. So we just have to look at the behavior of the customers. For example, few use cases could be how many people are not moving beyond the homepage, right? You can send push notifications, you can drive them through Facebook ads, Google ads, but if they're not moving beyond your homepage, something is not relevant, right? Whatever you're trying to communicate to the customer as a brand, it's not going through. So if you start creating those segments, and how we do at Sixth Street is we look at top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel, right? And looking at this, we have identified that top of the funnel is the needle mover. What I mean is, for how many PLP impressions does customer move to PDP? What is your ratio as a business? What is the industry benchmark against that? Where do you stand? Because PLP is something which every e-commerce player will have the highest number of impressions on. The funnel starts from there, right? So a 2% movement on that funnel is bigger than 10% movement down the funnel, right? So what we started looking at is we started incorporating these funnels into our daily catch-ups so that all head of departments across the business are there. And then it becomes your second nature, right? Okay, PLP to PDP ratio. If, okay, revenue was not there, like we missed our target for yesterday, what was the problem? Top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. Top of the funnel, let's talk. What is the problem? PLP to PDP, PDP to cart, what is the problem, right? And then suddenly, okay, let's look by country. Which country is the problem? Let's look by language. Which language is the problem? Suddenly, you narrow down, just by having that into your daily catch-up, narrow down the problem into a very small segment, right? So we took this problem, we started then, okay, across different teams, whether it's mostly between marketing and merchandising, that how do we improve the top of the funnel ratio, right? This leads me to the second part of the question on how do we approach what are the strategies we use to decrease the churn rate. So I think in that funnel, relevancy is the key, right? Somebody, if a customer is not entering the funnel on the top, it means no matter what communication you're doing, it's not relevant. So it's time to talk to the customer. It's time to listen and take business decisions on the actual problems after hearing from the customers, right? So in that segment, what we have done is there are 101 things you can do as a business. It could be your taxonomy is not proper, so that customer is looking for a watch, but it is not under accessories, under men, and so on. It's a very common e-com problem. Second problem could be your cart page is slow. Third problem could be your search functionality is not working, and so on. But 100 problems mean 100 Jira tickets, right? And nobody wants to have that conversation with the engineering team. I personally think Jira for the science fiction fans is a wormhole because when you talk to the engineering team, the only thing that comes out of it is priority. And for me, my time and my space in my head shrinks. That's why I call it a wormhole. So, but what we have done is through customer attrition analysis for 6th Street, we have boiled down the problem statements into 4 main things. The first one is the size availability. Second is the post-purchase experience. Third one is your customer service, and fourth one is assortment. So we have triggered through MoEngage a survey on the preferred channels for customers, asking all these 4 questions. If you give an unsatisfied response on any of these 4 questions, you are then asked a few more questions, which for us as a brand helps us go a bit more granular on the problem statement. So this is the approach we took, and as a result or as an outcome, let's say, for example, a significant percentage of people responded on the size availability question, right? So what we did was we took that feedback, we tweaked our PLP sorting algorithm and increased the weightage of size availability as a factor. So the products which appear on the top now have a higher weightage that size availability should be more than 80%, right? So this single step helped us improve in the last 3 months our PLP to PDP ratio by 10%, right? So I'm talking about like multi-million views being translated at a 10% higher ratio, right? So I think listening to the customers is really important, and boiling down problems. Don't tackle 100 problems at a time. Tackle the problem which listen to the customer and understand which problems are customers facing the most. Tackle that and you will see the impact. This is what we have done.
I really like that. I mean, maximum impact.
Yes.
And wherever you can drive maximum impact. And you're doing this daily, it's all manageable, and it actually, once the business sees results, of course, it becomes a part of your workflow.
I think this is the single most critical change that we have done in the business this year is the mindset, right? Like if I think that was important, I can work in silo, but the business will not see an impact. Put it out on the table, right? Put it on the table for everyone to see every single day. Then in a week, in a month, everybody will catch up. Yes. Then it becomes the common conversation on a day-to-day basis, right? That's where the teams get aligned. That's where that positive vibe of everybody moving in the same direction comes.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. And that's really important. Transparency, get everyone aligned. That's very, very important, regardless of what you're solving for.
Yeah.
Namrata, like I said, I remember the last panel I heard you had, revenge tourism. After that, I've traveled a lot. I wish I could travel more frequently. But I think your industry, you mentioned acquisitions important. But we sort of, it's cyclical, right? People travel in certain periods, and most times those people will travel again. So obviously there's your acquisition funnel. How are you trying to ensure that once they're acquired, that they constantly, whenever the need arises, are looking at Holiday Factory? What does personalization have to do in this? What does using data have to do with this? Can you share with us if you don't mind, please?
Sure. So like we touched upon that, our services are consumed periodically. That's where the whole retention game really changes. So an average traveler travels maybe 2 to 3 times a year, maybe now more after COVID, because you couldn't travel for 2 years. But on an average, 2 to 3 times a year. So we look at retention differently. For us, it's really about the dream of your next holiday itself, right? It's that vicious cycle, that infinite loop. So let's say you're on your last day of holiday. The only thing running on your mind is, when am I going to do this again? To really paint a picture, let's put Kunal in Maldives. And he's laying by at the beach. And you have a couple hours to catch a flight. What are you thinking?
Maldives. And
I don't want to go.
No, a couple of hours, yes.
Yeah, when am I going to come back here, or when am I going to travel next? And it's that dream, that infinite loop that we want to inject with some moments, which we love to call at Holiday Factory, to achieve the soft retention. You know, it's with retention, it's really different, but we always use a different mindset to this approach. So when you successfully acquire a customer, whatever the meaning of an activation moment that may be, you want to find a way to keep that customer alive in your ecosystem and to be relevant to your product and your brand without any external mediums or an advertising environment per se. So that's how personalization, and obviously with the help of MoEngage, we're able to do that. That's where the game changes. So after understanding our user, after profiling our customer, after really getting enough data to see what that dream could be, it's not just a psychology, it's also a lot of factors of data points there to really try to understand what would that next travel dream be, and how can Holiday Factory make that dream come alive? And obviously, once you have enough data, you're able to then use personalization with tailored recommendations and also like personalized emailers or SMS, even social media for that matter, to keep that customer in your soft retention journey, to say the next time this customer does want to make that dream come alive, you're going to remember me and you're going to book with me. Obviously, the service factor also plays a major part in retention. But what I believe is the most successful and the best marketing efforts are usually the ones that balance all the elements of your conversion funnel, right? So from acquisition to retention, but then also the beyond. And the beyond here is your converted or your retained customers becoming your brand advocates. That's where it really brings you value, because as a brand advocate, you might be giving that final nudge to a prospect becoming a customer. And that then plays your role into the acquisition. So the combination of this soft retention along with brand advocacy really helps us do a winning strategy. And personalization plays a huge role here. I mean, in travel, generally, personalization is a game changer.
I'm still in Maldives, just FYI. Haven't come back. No, but that's really helpful. And soft retention, I like it. That's very cool. Because yes, there is the deliberate retention, especially when you know the frequency of purchase. Travel, you probably know that there is between a window of time that someone will travel. You don't know it's going to happen next week, next month. So if you're in that soft retention journey, obviously top of mind, Holiday Factory, and that starts building that long-term relationship with your customers. So that's very cool. Thank you for sharing. We're out of time, but very quickly, 30 seconds, if I can go around. Role of technology in all of this. You probably just want to give us a snippet on how you've used and what you've used technology for in some of these initiatives you'll have discussed, if you don't mind.
Sure. I think most of the businesses have more information that they can actually process. It's about the differentiation is what are you doing with the information in front of you, right? So just the technology enablement piece in the e-commerce space, for example, everybody here uses GA, and more or less everybody has a sophisticated e-commerce tracking, but that is not actionable in a real time, right? Like, of course, you can pull out reports, provide reports to merchandising, this and that, but you cannot create smart flows based on that. That's where, for me, leading the marketing, I need to enable the people under me to take decisions based on real-time data coming in, and the data has to be actionable, right? So that's where a platform like MoEngage or most of the marketing automation tools that we use are helping our teams to create, like, it's a continuous factor of, like, each week we need to do a test. Every month there has to be a 2 tests, right? Running, whether it's in-app communication, whether it's e-commerce through WhatsApp, which is enabled again via MoEngage and so on. So for us, technology enablement through data-driven insight, actionable insight is the key.
Thanks, Ankit. Nadine, can I ask you next?
Sure.
There
Yes,
you
you can. So actually we use like a lot of tools at the same time, but at the heart we have obviously our CDP and surprise, but we have MoEngage for customization and optimization of that particular customization in that message, in that content that helps us. And but we also have, like, you said something and somebody else said something, real-time decision making. We have these tools like who make these decisions sometimes on our behalf. But sometimes the decision makers, they need to make a decision too, like human factor. So we also have this intranet kind of thing that connects to real data that notifies actually if something changed. So actually, like, we can take decisions company-wide internally as well. And we have other, like, you know, small tools that integrate to our tech stack, but I would say our, like, marketing personalization tool, our automation tools, our CDP, and our CRM, they all work together.
Put it all together, that's
Yeah.
the important. Namrata, can I ask you just anything, any insights, role of technology?
So honestly, like I mentioned earlier, so using MoEngage, we're able to profile the customer better. So that gives us so much more data into understanding what would their next step be. Also, like, you have a lot of information about their historical data. But can that help you predict what their next booking is going to be? In this industry, not really. It can give you a little bit of understanding, but not really a right prediction of what the next step is going to be. It depends on their situation, depends on their likes, depends on the opportunity that they're utilizing, whether it's an anniversary, whether it's a single trip. So collating as much information about the behavior using especially MoEngage has really helped us with personalization, simply put. Yeah.
Thanks, Namrata. And Shelly, last.
Sure.
Definitely
So
not.
technology, absolutely, this is the most important component, but technology is as good as your team knows how to utilize it. The use cases are there, and as everyone said, like, the automation to the real-time insights is the key, and this will be the game changer in future. And if we have the platforms which are like insight-led, or so far it is the case that the insights coming from the insight engine, and then this is integrated to other systems, and then you are taking action. So if the system already are so smart that the insight is coming from the same engine and the automation is there at the same time of user journey, when whatsoever stage they are on, if we are able to capture them, this will be this is how I see the future.
So
I know that some of the organization already achieved it, but yeah, so that 7 out of top 10 in current stock market. So quite far from there. So I think definitely technology plays the bigger role, but we need to know how to use.
That's true. No, that's good. So to summarize, have the right people using the technology, have it consolidated, and of course, manage the process and the people in your organization. Guys, thank you so very much for sharing all of those insights. I know we've gone a little over, but I really enjoyed that conversation. Can I request that we please give them a hand? Thank you so much.
Thank you.